And if no heads roll up to August, then the president squarely knows this is his baby. It is just a matter of time. The baby will grow and the pregnancy will be evidenced by the fact that nobody is going to be asked to be sanctioned. So I have a feeling that this scandal is bigger than what we are seeing. It has been sanctioned by the regime, so it is within the system. He lied about his degree. Now he's still lying about his presence at the county. He will eventually say he's not the one who presided over 5 years of mayhem at the county hall.
And you're just in time for Business Glide, your only point of call on matters public policy analysis, business and economics at large. I am yours truly, Richard Monja. It is always a pleasure to have you on board. And today on the show, we are discussing this particular subject. And we are looking at the situation whether President Ruto has turned around the economy of Kenya and perhaps maybe alleviated the suffering of Kenyans. We're going to cite a number of parameters. But first things first, allow me introduce the gentleman who will help me dissect today's conversation. He is a former cabinet minister and a renowned power tank and think tank. That is Kipruto Arab Kirwa. Glad to see you, sir.
Yes, my pleasure.
After a 3-week break, you're finally here.
Yes, I'm here.
Greetings from Moisbridge. Receive them.
Oh, thank you so much. You also pass my regards to them. I'll tell them that I'll be going to Kitale on Friday, or perhaps on Saturday. Yes.
I brought you some little token in form of a gift, that is avocados.
Ah, wonderful.
At a small fee, though.
Oh, yeah. I wish you had consumed it before the interview.
No worries, sir. That of the way, let's dive straight to the day's conversation. And we're looking at whether Kenyans sort of have reprieve. I mean, even before the new regime came on board, there are complaints that the suffering is taking a notch higher by the day. And let's start from the point of agriculture, which this current regime had profiled as an avenue that will be the biggest employer to Kenyans and that they're going to revitalize it so that one can make profit out of it. But if we start from the recent scandal from agricultural side, that is the fake fertilizer, and how the government has handled the entire issues, even now that they're trying to compensate the same farmers who are affected, are you sort of justified that they have made the best foot forward when it comes to revitalizing agriculture?
Well, there are a number of parameters that possibly, if the regime of the day listened to the public, they would be able to address as a way of alleviating the challenges that have bedeviled the agriculture sector for quite some time. The first one, of course, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we had a drought that ravaged many parts of the country, especially for livestock farmers. They lost a herd of cattle, like here in Kajiado, and of course Narok, and other counties of livestock keepers. They lost a fortune. It is reported that we almost lost close to 20 billion worth of livestock, both small stock and big stock. Now, the second issue is that this is an economy that is recovering from the COVID-19, the ravages that visited Kenya because of that. And therefore, anybody assessing the economy must have those two clear points in mind.
Sure.
We are also dealing with a situation where internationally there has been some kind of meltdown that has taken place from the Americas, raising the interest rate for their lending, and that therefore had a ripple effect on the value of the dollar against the Kenya shilling. And of course there is the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. And of course, to a certain extent, you cannot ignore the Israeli-Hamas war. They are affecting our geopolitics, they are affecting our economy and international business. All those are factors that we must take into consideration. But once said and done, there are things that we can do locally. The current regime made it clear that they would be able to subsidize production as a way of mitigating against the vagaries of price shifts. And therefore, we would expect that that subsidy would assist in ensuring that the benefit goes to the farmer. I remember the president himself made it clear that he would be able to move into value addition, reduce the cost of feeding of livestock as a way of increasing productivity in terms of milk production. And that, he said, would assist twofold. The price of milk will be affordable to ordinary people, and also farmers will be able to reap the most of benefits arising out of reducing the cost of feeds. That has not been witnessed. The cost of feeds has gone up. The cost of acaricides, which is very useful for livestock production, has gone up. And the cost of all other commodities, apart from the fact that there is also faking of the same, such that you buy something thinking this is going to assist in removing certain harmful organisms from the livestock, only to realize that you are buying water almost laced with a bit of acaricide, and it is not going to be useful to you as a farmer. Those are the challenges that we are faced with, and we've not done enough. And on the other front is the cost of production can be reduced by ensuring that you deal with certain basic components such as fuel. Fuel, although now it has come down to about 200 shillings to a litre, it came up from 150 something. So about 50 shillings to every litre. This therefore means that if you are plowing 1 acre of land in Trans Nzoia, you will have to go 4,500 for you to do that kind of farming. So overall, they have done less than what they ought to do. Perhaps with the benefit of time, they may improve. But as a way of improvement, I would recommend a number of things. One is to ensure that we get bona fide goods and into our market, whether it is fertilizer, whether it's herbicides, whether acaricides, whether it is even the foodstuffs that we import. And that will be able to assist the farmer so that you can plan with certainty. The second issue that I also recommend is the issue of taxation. You know, at times you can overtax to the extent that you sort of depress production by increasing taxes. But if you are to reduce taxes in certain components, people will be encouraged to buy more of that and visit production and improve productivity. So these are some of the issues that we need to recommend and suggest to the government that yes, cost of production is just not going to be through simple subsidy. It has to be a raft of other issues around production regime.
Moving on swiftly, I want to understand, what do you make of the recent step by the government, that is to compensate the farmers who had been served with fake fertilizer, or I should say substandard fertilizer? And still on that same note, what do you make of the tone of the CS in charge of agriculture, Mr. Kalinturi? Do you think he has handled the entire issue with utmost decency and decorum, and also a sense of empathy towards those who are affected?
A number of questions do arise. If I tell you I'm compensating you for picking fake fertilizer from our National Cereals and Produce Board, who am I doing it for? Why aren't you holding the company responsible for the production and distribution of that fertilizer as the culprit that has created all this mess?
The private farm.
The private farm. How can the government pretend now that they are paying compensation to a private farm well, that private farm should be held to account. Number two, let's also ask ourselves, why are we compensating for the fertilizer that you bought? The way I look at it is that that compensation should be many times more. Because, for example, if I took 10 bags of fertilizer,
True.
I put into my 10 acres, and now I've lost the season. As you know, we are almost at the tail end of the season. And the rule of the thumb is that from the onset of rains, every week that passes, you are losing a certain percentage of expected yields. So now this rain has been here for more than 4 weeks. So you have lost almost 40% of expected yields, even if you are to plant today. And that therefore means your optimal production levels are going to be reduced.
True.
Now, if you are to compensate me, you don't compensate me for the 10 bags. You compensate me for the opportunity lost, because it has cost me something. In 10 acres, I should be expecting 200 bags of maize. So if there is any adequate compensation, apart from the harassment, because you see, lawyers, they get compensation in terms of quantums, in terms of expected yields, and also the frustration I've gone through, because that was a frustration.
True.
So that is the level of compensation. But more important, this is nothing to do with Mithika alone. I think Mithika is just a pawn in the game of chess. There are other players. Because listening to the Honorable Boshole, the Honorable Sudi, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, condemning the MP for Aldai, that why are you sulking? You're either sulking, you lost a boyfriend, things that really leaders should not be talking about. I feel they were unfair to her, in the sense that as an MP, she has a constituency to represent, notwithstanding her relationship with any other people.
Personal domestic issues.
Yeah, those are domestic issues. And why are we so harsh to women? Because, you know, at times, if it was a man talking about the same issue, it would not have been taken out of context. But for me, I'm looking at the three guys, or the three people, Shole, Kimani, Ichung'wah,
And Oscar Sudi.
and Oscar Sudi. If you see, if I had a dog and I left it in the car and I got here, by now it would be barking, now inviting me that generally I'm here. So when you hear the three of them, it's not about the MP for Aldai. It is there is somebody else they are protecting. And therefore they have been told, silence this person because of 1, 2, 3. So I have a feeling that this scandal is bigger than what we are seeing. It has been sanctioned by the regime, so it is within the system. And remember, the same company was given the same thing for distribution almost like 1 year ago or so, which means this is a company that is known by the big boys and the big girls, and therefore it's part of the system.
It sort of enjoys some sense of immunity.
Immunity, because I would expect heads to roll between now and August. Of course, there are people that we've had, they are being suspected, both in the public service and also in politics. And if no heads roll up to August, then the president squarely knows this is his baby. It is just a matter of time. The baby will grow and the pregnancy will be evidenced by the fact that nobody is going to be asked to be sanctioned. That is my take. The president always has more information than any one of us, and therefore he knows who brought the fertilizer. Back to procurement of fertilizer. You know, National Cereals and Produce Board does a number of things. One, it is an agent of government, and in quite a number of cases, it does some agency.
Sure.
Agency in the sense that to bring maize, fertilizer, or any commodity that is required in the domestic market of strategic importance, National Cereals and Produce Board is one of the institutions, especially when it comes to food products. or products that are supposed to produce food. So fertilizer being in that particular category, the government knows, because a meeting must have been convened at some stage. It is not that just the manager of cereals or the minister called somebody that bring fertilizer. There was a meeting that tendered. And in that tender committee, there was representative of Treasury, representative of Office of President, State Corporations. There was representative from the Ministry of Agriculture. There was a representative from any other interested party within government. Like, for example, when we used to have the Ministry of Special Programs, there would have been a representative from there. Apart from that, there is a chair of the board, there is the MD, and there are directors.
Sure.
And in this case, those directors are known. They are individuals. If you are to Google today, you will be able to see who are the members of the board of National Cereals and Produce Board. So it cannot be said that these things happened with the government totally oblivious of what is happening. The government knew, and in this case, the head of government is the president. He is three things in one: head of state, head of government, and therefore anything happening in government, the prime cabinet secretary is just like an assistant to the president.
So you're saying it's only a matter of time and the paternity test of this child will come?
It will come
to light.
It will come
eventually.
Out, and we will be able to see the way it will be grinning with funny teeth.
You shall be there no matter what? You shall be there no matter what?
Whatever?
I mean, you shall be there no matter what, waiting for the results.
It's just a matter of time. We'll know. And I've told you, if the pregnancy goes full term and the child is born, the president is aware of the father, if he's not the father himself.
Moving on swiftly, let's shift gears and address the current subject that is domiciled in the thoughts of many, and that has to do with the current floods that are ravaging most parts of the country. And let's look at the national, or I should say the nation's preparedness and response to national disasters, these current floods being one of them. Do you think Kenya as a nation has put its best foot forward, and do you think how we have handled the situation this far shows that a country that has the best interest of its citizens at heart, and most particularly those who are most vulnerable?
First of all, we seem almost to be having knee-jerk reaction every time some of these problems arise. I say so because we allow people to encroach on areas they should not be settled. Of course, there are floods in areas where people have conveniently settled and they are allowed by law.
Sure.
But there are also areas where people have encroached onto some waterways, some riparian land. And therefore, water is trying to exercise its presence on its path. And anybody on that wake is going to be a victim of the same. Number two, we seem to be oblivious of these facts when the situation is okay. We know people who are living dangerously on hills that are likely to suffer landslides, and we do nothing in between. It's only when there is a crisis like now that we pronounce ourselves to it. The third issue is that we know there are people who have created roadblocks on areas where water should be channeled. For example, this wastage that you see in Nairobi, that a lot of paper, a lot of debris, a lot of material is kept in the culverts as a convenient way of hiding them away from the public, is what is creating the overflow that has claimed many lives in town and in other places. Now, what is happening is that our bad manners is catching up with us. You throw a piece of paper there, you throw plastic paper, when you are, whatever your plastic container is broken because you cannot mend it, you throw it away. Such that if you are to go outside this premises, you will find that wastage is there and we do nothing about it. The fourth issue is also our construction industry. What we do is that we make good roads, but we don't give them good drainage. And these roads, even the one now to my place, to the house, has almost given way because of lack of drainage. So water lying on the road for a certain period creates a pothole, whether you like it or not. But roads, even the mud roads, even during the colonial days, the one from Kitale to Kablamai, you are restricted from traveling after the rain until about 11 o'clock the following day is when you are allowed to travel on that road. Otherwise, you will be creating mayhem out of the road. There was proper drainage. Apart from the normal road channel, there used to be some drainage behind, so that water does not run on the side of the road. It runs through a certain drainage along the road all the way to the river. And those are areas where those people, we are calling them BWD, I think. That is Public Works Department, PWD, Public Works Department. Would find some cheeky boys trying to mess those places, and they would cane you out of your stupor. So those are the conditions that were meant to assist to mitigate the situation. Otherwise, we know every year there is rain, and that rain needs to be guided in a certain way that it does not cause a lot of damage.
So you should tone down on knee-jerk reactions.
Knee-jerk reaction is not the way to go. We need to be careful about how we run these facilities. We use a lot of money, but when we don't do the drainage, that road that was going to last for 15 years will last only 5 years.
Very well.
Then we spend more money, and we don't seem to create possibility for that water. Like now between Karen and my place is a place that you can realize it is waterlogged. And therefore, the natural thing they used to do is to create a small dam on the side so that all that water gets to the dam. But where it's supposed to be the dam for that kind of reserve, people have constructed and therefore blocked the possibility of having a small amount of water being dammed.
Sure.
Along the road.
Now that you've mentioned about knee-jerk reactions from the government side, and it begs the question, could we be having a case as a country that of cashing in on disasters for political interest and also other personal interest? Because oftentimes we see politicians and even our leaders pronouncing themselves loudly and even beyond the media anytime you have disasters. So it begs the question, after the disasters, why don't we seem to be working on it and preparing ourselves for the next calamity should it happen?
Well, partly is what you're saying, that people feel is an opportunity that even accounting and even the normal 42 days that it takes for, what do you call it, for procurement to take effect, it is reduced because now it's a crisis. And that is the excuse that they will give. So that's the main problem. It is a cash cow. Because even some, there used to be some officers in my former ministry, when there are armyworms, quail birds, what was it, the other one? Locusts. You'd see somebody moving on the corridor in a celebratory mood because he knows it is a good way. You can take one or two planes, you fly them to Narok, that there are locusts now coming, invading from Tanzania. And whether you went 10 times, 100 times, the answer is within you.
The budget is approved so quickly.
It's been approved. 40 million will be spent on locusts, what they call plant protection. So you'll be protecting, yes, you might spend 10 million, then you write, I spend 40 million.
Very well.
30 million will be shared among the perpetrators of the heinous crime.
Very well. It is actually said that success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan.
Is an orphan, yeah.
And if you look at the current crop of leaders, and I'll particularly cite Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja, who has distanced himself from the current mess orchestrated by the floods, saying this is a historical problem. I inherited the county with these particular challenges. The floods have been with us for the last 50, 60 years. Why would someone sideline himself from the current mess instead of speaking into the issue and also into solutions?
You know, governments, whether it is county or national, the moment you sign into the budget, you already own everything. It's like you marry, well, without using the issue again of pregnancy, is that you buy a company with a going concern, as a going concern, and after buying the company, 2 years down the road, you start complaining that this company has had historical challenges. You have already owned the company for 2.5 years, almost 2 years, so you cannot come and tell us, I did not know the challenges of the company. Otherwise, you are not the leader what you are sold. What Johnson Sakaja should do is really to do the needful. He lied about his degree. Now he's still lying about his presence at the county. He will eventually say he's not the one who presided over 5 years of mayhem at the county hall. Because if he's denying the fact that he's been there for 1.5 years, and in his interview he impressed many of us. He said he's a Nairobian, he understands the problems of Nairobi, and he handles it from the ghetto all the way to City Hall. But I realized, I don't know whether he got a lift from the ghetto or did he work on foot. So it worries me because Johnson, Other Sakaja, is the governor of Nairobi. And anything happening in Nairobi is squarely his. He should not tell us anything. He has paid a lot of bills to lawyers, I'm told in the tune of 10 billion. If he had spent 10 billion on managing drainage and relocating people in dangerous areas, today he would be a hero.
But maybe he's borrowing leave from his seniors who oftentimes have taken the blame squarely at the doorstep of the former regime, and particularly Uhuru Kenyatta, for the messes the country is in. Do you think he's borrowing from that?
If he's borrowing, but he's borrowing the wrong example. He's borrowing the wrong example in the sense that once you take over a home, whether it's a farm, once you marry a lady, if for some reason she was pregnant before you met her, that child is yours. Actually, traditionally for us, even let's say if you are married and you are a lady, you allow her to go away for 10 years. All the children she will bear outside there are yours, because you should have been responsible enough to make sure that she remains in the compound and the children are biologically yours. Otherwise, you have no reason, unless you had severed relations. Yeah, you are divorced.
Your references and examples normally have lots of sarcasm there in, and perhaps why our viewers love you, and perhaps why they call you Agui, grandfather.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it all, and perhaps you are more wiser than most of us out here. And that point by Kipruto Arap Kira takes us to the wrap of this conversation today. We've been talking matters to do with whether President Ruto has turned around the economy of Kenya and perhaps alleviated the suffering that many households in this country seem to be experiencing. We are gonna advance this conversation. This is just part one of the conversation, so stay tuned to our next edition, whereby we now bring this entire subject to a wrap. Until next time on Business Glide, it's always a pleasure to have you on board. Kipruto Arap Kiro, such a distinct honor to host you again.
It's also my pleasure. Yeah, and just to tell you, I'm a child of two worlds. I'm from traditional society, and I've been sort of modernized by presence in Nairobi for quite some time.
Very well.
I thank God for it, and I think I have a responsibility to manage the transition.
Very well.
Yeah.
Asante sana. Until next time, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Up next on your screen is the Business Glide African Proverb of the Day.